G'day guys and welcome to ReDriven. Now, as implied in the title, we've been running a bit of a Fast Wagons series here at ReDriven, and welcome to part 4, 50,000 to 100,000 Australian dollars. But if you haven't seen parts 1, 2 and 3, hit pause now and click on the link just up there for part 1 because it'll explain what this is all about. Now, for the rest of us that are up to date, look, we're going to stick with the same rules as in parts 1, 2 and 3, that these cars have to be as internationally available as possible. And look, while some of the cars in part 3, they do dabble into this new budget, we're not going to talk about them again because that would just be boring. But let's get into this, our top 5 Fast Wagons, part 4. Okay, right, kicking things off, we're going to bend the rules straight away. Yes, officially this car wasn't available outside of Japan when it was brand new, but thanks to the wonderful world of grey imports, it is now globally available. And secondly, while we have mentioned this nameplate before, this thing is so different to that car in all but name and the fact it's a bloody fast wagon. It's the Nissan Stagia. Yes, we mentioned the wonderful M35 Stagia in part 1, but for this budget, things get very serious and a little bit old school. Here in Australia, you're going to be handing over anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000 to get behind the wheel of an iconic wagon, the 1997 to 2001 260 RS Tech version. Basically, Nissan has taken the engine, transmission, all-wheel drive system and differential from the incredible R33 GTR and stuffed it into a wagon body. They then fitted Brembo brakes, BBS wheels, strengthened the body, upgraded the suspension, added a front strut brace and a special rear stabiliser, and finally fitted an Tech body kit. Then they went ahead and treated the interior to a bunch of GTR parts and trimmed it in an exclusive Tech edition fabric. Official power figures, when standard, might not be all that impressive these days, putting out 206 kilowatts and at least 353 Newton meters, but it is widely regarded that these figures are extremely conservative compared to what the Stagia Tech actually produced. But as we all know, that RB26, it does love a good massage. With a bit of tweaking and a few quality modifications, R33 GTRs can delve into the many hundreds of horsepower realm, meaning that with the Stagia Tech sharing the same running gear, you can quite potentially have an 800 or even 1000 horsepower wagon. That's a wagon with Bugatti Veyron power. Perfect. Okay, next up, these things here in Australia are pretty bloody rare, but they are worth the hunt. It's the BMW 535i M Sport Estate. Estate's what BMW call a wagon. The BMW we really wanted in this spot was the V8 powered 550i Estate, but thanks to it never coming to Australia and being near impossible to find even in markets where it was available, we've gone with the more common, if you can call it that, 2014 to 2017 535i M Sport LCI update. Like the Stagia, the 535i is powered by a turbocharged 6-cylinder engine, but the BMW requires only the single turbo versus the Nissan's pair. However, unlike the Stagia, and in traditional BMW fashion, power is sent to the rear wheels only. And how much power? Well, 331 kilowatts and 600 Newton meters will have the rear wheels spinning with joy the moment you turn the comprehensive safety systems off and plant that right foot. Plus, being a 5 Series, you'll be wrapped in leather and luxury, and thanks to the LCI update, you'll have plenty of technology at your fingertips too. And while all 535 Estates are bloody quick, we'd recommend the M Sport with its performance-tuned suspension, slightly more aggressive aesthetics and sportier interior. Plus, like the Stagia, it's no secret that these engines respond very nicely to a few mods. Now, you know how we wanted a V8 5 Series before? Well, thanks to Mercedes, or more specifically AMG, it's a V8 in third place. It's the CLS 63. Not only is it a V8, those crazy kids at AMG have bolted 2 turbos to the 5.5 litre, pumping out 430 kilowatts and 800 Newton meters. That'll propel the interesting looking beast from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in a touch over 3.5 seconds. Now look, technically this isn't a wagon, as Mercedes call it a shooting brake compared to their normal wagons, which they call an estate. But we feel this is wagon enough to make this list. While it is powerful and it is very, very fast, the CLS 63 is a pretty big unit of a thing, and dynamics-wise, it clearly places luxury and sophistication well above any desire to dominate a set of tight corners. But where the CLS 63 really grabs our attention is in price. Here in Australia, the CLS 63 AMG S retailed for around about $265,000 when new, and that's before any optional extras were selected and before our on-road costs have been added. These days on the used market, you can pick up a 2014 or 2015 example for around about $90,000. Thanks to Mercedes' insane levels of depreciation, that's a $175,000 loss in value in just 6 years. Or to put it another way, nearly $30,000 a year. So while $90,000 for a car may sound expensive, this thing is a bit of a bargain. As long as you ignore the potential costs in repairs and maintenance and upkeep and petrol and insurance. Now look, it's one thing to have loads of power like the CLS 63, but power is nothing without traction. And that's something our next car has no problem with whatsoever. It's the Audi RS4. For this budget, you're going to be looking at 2012 to 2015 B8 RS4s, powered by Audi's glorious 331 kilowatt, 430 newton meter, 4.2 litre naturally aspirated V8. Look, yes, we too wish this thing was available with the 6-speed manual transmission from the previous generation B7, but the 7-speed dual-clutch S-Tronic does make this generation faster and arguably easier to live with than the old do-it-yourself unit. Audi have forged quite the reputation for creating sublime fast wagons, and this generation, to many, marks the perfect balance between old-school naturally aspirated V8 charm and dynamics, blended with a platform that provides excellent safety, practicality, and usability. However, it needs to be mentioned that maintenance and upkeep for these things can quickly delve into the realms of ridiculous, with some previous owners unable to justify the continual running costs. This is something that we're going to get into far more deeply when we review one of these, if we can find one of these, which brings us to you guys. If you own one of these things and you're happy for us to review it, please let us know. Please. But putting the financial realities to the side for a second, this generation RS4, it pretty much does it all. Super practical with a lovely interior, it looks just right, aggressive yet understated, and it will carve up pretty much any road in nearly any condition. Although, if it is pushed really hard, it can be prone to understeer, something that the car in first place has no problem with. Now guys, if you're enjoying this video, can I ask a favor? Can you hit those like, subscribe, and bell icon buttons? And also, can you share this video as much as you can? Because the more you share it and the more you hit those buttons, the more of these videos we can make. And that'd be wonderful. Now in first place, it's arguably the RS4's most direct competitor. It's the Mercedes-Benz C63 AMG S. For this budget here in Australia, you're going to be looking at 2015 or 2016 models. But guys, what a thing. 380 kilowatts and 700 newton meters from a 4-litre twin-turbo V8 powering exclusively the rear wheels in a very attractive wagon body. And while the C63 may struggle for traction when compared to the RS4, we feel that's why the AMG is arguably just more fun more of the time. The RS4 can be a scalpel of a wagon, but when it's pushed really, really hard, it does have a bit of a habit of throwing in the towel, ignoring that steering input, and it just plows straight ahead. Whereas the C63, look, unless you're being a complete idiot, will go where you tell it. And with a liberal dose of that right foot, it'll happily swing the rear end out and have you looking at where you're going through your or the passenger's window. Okay, look, that's not the safest approach to driving, but even when pushed, the C63S rarely ever falters, constantly encouraging you to have more and more fun. Guys, look, if it's fast and practical enough to be the Formula 1 medical car, it's surely good enough for the likes of you and me. Now guys, like in the previous episodes, we have a few honourable mentions. First up, it's the Jaguar XFR-S Sport Brake. Jaguar took the already gorgeous Ian Callum designed XF Jag, moulded it into what has to be one of the best looking wagons ever, then plonked a 404 kilowatt and 680 newton meter supercharged 5-litre V8 under that sculpted bonnet. Dynamically, it could never quite match the Germans, and it also doesn't make this official list as availability globally was extremely limited. Okay, next up, it is infuriating that this thing isn't internationally available enough, because for this budget, it is brilliant. It's the BMW M340i xDrive Touring. 285 kilowatts and 500 newton meters from a turbocharged 3-litre 6, powering all 4 wheels in the very latest 3 Series Touring body with sports-tuned suspension, just the right amount of bling, and all of the practicality, safety, and technology anyone could ever need. But it's not an internationally available car because too many people are buying performance SUVs instead of fast wagons. Boo. And finally, for honourable mentions, again, it's a complete crime that these things never made it off Aussie shores. It is the wonderful and what surely has to now be iconic HSV Club Sport R8 Tourer, LSA. We mentioned the Club Sport Tourer in the previous episode, but this one raises the bar yet again by bolting a supercharger to that already brilliant 6.3 litre V8. Has 410 kilowatts of power and 691 newton meters of torque in a wagon sound. Well, it sounds like this. But it's not all power with no control. The LSA variant features AP racing brakes, bespoke tuned suspension, and loads of safety tech. We'll just choose to ignore the fuel consumption when you're actually having a proper go in it. Now guys, thank you so much for watching, and what did you think of the list? What makes up your top 5 list for this budget? Let us know in those comments. Oh, and remember, can you please hit those like, subscribe, and bell icon buttons, and share this video as much as you can. Honestly, it helps us out so much. Oh, also, go and check us out on the socials. See you next time. Pretty much does it all. Turn off the turn the comprehensive safety systems off, Cal. It's the Mercedes something. First up, the Jaguar, what is it, XFRS Sport Brake. We have a few honourable, here we go again, honourable mentions, a word I can't say. M340i, 340i X-Drive Estate. Touring, dickhead, touring. Ian Callum, gorgeous, Ian Callum. Safety and technology, anyone, subscribe and bell icon buttons,